Final thoughts. Snowboarding is expensive. Welcome back to LayFit. Today we're going to be covering the topic of snowboarding on a budget with family. Point number one is snowboarding ain't cheap, but you can save. So some costs to consider when you're thinking about getting into snowboarding is the cost of gear. That is your board, your bindings, and your boots. You've got your helmets and your goggles as well, and your snow pants, your bib, and your jacket. You've also got hats and the baklava. It's the neck thing that covers up to your face. So costs can really add up. The trick is to find where you can cut costs and where you can't cut costs, where you can buy used and where you can't buy used, or where you shouldn't buy used. Point number two is all about clothing. Staying warm and dry for less. Now, I think that clothing is one of the biggest factors to consider when you are snowboarding or thinking about getting into snowboarding. And that's mainly because you're gonna be outside all day long and you might spend a lot of time on the snow, especially if you're new. Like I spent a lot of time in the snow. So you wanna have warm gear. Not all snow gear is rated for every type of weather. There are some that can only go up to a certain degree, and there are some that are really rated for really cold weather. So that's something to consider. Apart from that, you would need to consider that not all gear, not all snow pants, not all jackets are 100% waterproof. There are some that are just water resistant. So do your homework prior to purchasing, or risk being cold and uncomfortable during your trips. This is how we saved as a family of 3. Now, this might not apply to you, but for our 1.5-year-old, we didn't actually spend any money on his jacket and his snow pants because that was given to us. Ask and you shall receive, right? So we didn't spend any money on our 1.5-year-old's jacket or snow pants. So we had to purchase a jacket for myself as well as a bib that was waterproof. So we decided to go to a Black Friday sale where they had a sale where things were about 60% off. But the bib that I got was actually $80, which has the Omni Heat technology, which I like a lot because I've gone snowboarding and I've just worn my leggings or yoga pants and I have not had any issues with being cold or wet. And that's after three trips and spending a lot of time on the ground. Apart from the bib that I got, I purchased a jacket that has 2 layers. So we have the shell and an inner jacket, and then in the inner jacket there's a lining of Omni Heat technology, which I also loved. And I found myself being so warm that I've had to remove layers. That was on my first trip. On my first trip, I had my base layer and my mid layer and then my outer layer. And I found out that I did not need a mid layer after wearing the Omni Heat Tech by Columbia. That jacket cost me $100, and I think that was just bang for your buck. Apart from jacket and bib, we also had to purchase socks. We purchased wool socks because they are moisture wicking. Point number 3, helmets. Safety first. One thing I suggest not to skimp on are helmets. I refused to be on the slopes without a helmet. Actually, I wanted butt pads, knee pads, wrist pads, and I wanted to be bubble wrapped. Because if you're starting snowboarding at this age, in 30s, you might not recover as quickly as you would have in your 20s. So we purchased helmets from Amazon. We spent about $80 on my helmet as well as my husband's helmet. With this helmet, it actually came with goggles already, and goggles also, I think those are safety features. These goggles, they come up and they kind of cover your entire face, and they're really good. Very good safety feature, because if you're ever on a slope and they're making their own snow, you do get pelted with snow. And as much as I wish it were soft snow, it's not. It's actually ice. So being pelted with that in your face is not fun. So wear the goggles. And my 1.5-year-old's helmet was purchased from the last hunt, also a Black Friday deal. And instead of it being $200, we purchased it for $80. So just to recap so far, and this is just on clothing. For me, my jacket and my snow pants from Colombia during a Black Friday sale were $180. And our helmets as a family, $70 per adult and $80 for our 1.5-year-olds. I also mentioned the wool socks that we purchased were also from Colombia, which were $20 for 2 pairs, and we purchased 2 packs. Point number 4, snowboard setup. Keep it simple for beginners. Even though gear goes on sale, this time I'm talking about your actual snowboard boots, your bindings, and your actual snowboard. This is how we saved. We purchased used equipment on Facebook Market. So my husband found a bundle from Facebook Market for $65, which came with size 9 snowboarding boots, bindings, and snowboard. Do a thorough look through, try it on, schedule these Facebook meetings so that you actually have time to go over the product that you are going to be purchasing. Because we purchased this setup, the straps for the bindings actually snapped on my first hill, as well as the boots that I purchased, size 9, weren't actually the size that I needed because I was going off of my regular shoe size, which is usually 8.5 or 9. Yes, I do currently wear size 9 boots, snow boots, but turns out I'm actually a size 7.5 in snowboarding boots. After we purchased that setup, we only ended up keeping the board and the bindings. So we ended up selling the boots, and we purchased new boots from Facebook Market. It was $100 and it was brand new. Just the person who was selling it had it in the closet for 2 years, and it was way too small for her, and she just never got around to selling it until now. So it is 2 years old, but brand spanking new. So $100 for the brand 32 with double boa technology was such a steal. My husband did thorough research when it came to what kind of boots are worth it, or like what kind of bindings to stay away from, and what kind of board that we need. Just be careful when it comes to purchasing on Facebook Market. Making sure you give yourself some time to actually look through it thoroughly and schedule it at a time when you can actually see what you're looking to purchase. Point 5 is just a gear rundown of what I had. Our first purchase was a combo of boot, board, and bindings, and that was only $65, but we did sell the boots, so it was altogether $35 for the boot, for the binding and the board. And then the brand new boot off Facebook Market cost us $100, so my gear altogether was $135 from Facebook Market. So point number 6 is our 1.5-year-old setup. Purchasing used snowboarding gear for a 1.5-year-old was more difficult. My husband found himself being on Facebook Market quite often, just looking for the right setup for him. But after some patience, he did find small boots, which were size 7C Burton boots for $50. And he also found a K2 mini 90-centimeter board and binding combo for $60 for him. And this is all off Facebook Market. And this binding and board he can use up until he's maybe like 4 or 5 years old, depending on how tall and long he gets. But this is going to be with him for a while. And so will the boot, because you can remove the layers as he grows. So altogether, we spent $110 for our 1.5-year-old's snowboard setup. Point number 7, lift passes. Save big with preseason or flex passes. So this is the fun part. This is lift passes, and this is what's going to cost you a lot for the next couple of years after you've already spent a lot of money on gear. So we found that there are 3 types of passes. There's the early bird passes, there's the preseason passes, and there is the in-season passes. Early bird being the cheapest one. The pre-season passes are not as expensive as the in-season, and then the in-season are just incredibly expensive. Keep in mind, if you are purchasing early bird, you might need to know the dates where you are going to be going. So one of the passes that we purchased were from Blue Mountain, and this pass required us to book in advance. So we got the whole day on the slopes and access to the lifts, but we had to book our date in advance. So we chose a weekday and we booked it about a month in advance. So for 2 adults, 1 day pass, which was all day long, is $55 per person. So we spent in total about $110 for our Blue Mountain experience. The next pass that we purchased was from Snow Valley. These passes gave us access for 6 hours. So we purchased 2 passes per adult. So we had 2-day passes per adult, and we did not have to book our days ahead of time, but we did go on a weekend, which we actually regretted at about 10:30 a.m. and the lines were insane. The lifts lineups were really insane because not only do you have your skiers and your snowboarders, and there are a ton of skiboarders. There are a ton of skiers and snowboarders, but there was also students, lots and lots of students. If you've been to Snow Valley, you know they have lots of students, so it was really busy. So yeah, plan your days accordingly. The 2-day pass for us cost us $100 per person. The last pass that we purchased pre-season was the Flex Pass, and this was from Mount St. Louis or Moonstone Resort. It is the Flex Double Pass, which was $179 per person, and this doesn't require us to book in advance. This was for all day, anytime, for however long you want to be there for. This has a limit to how many people can purchase it, or I think a deadline for when they will remove the purchasing option online. But we did purchased this in about November. Altogether, we spent $668 on lift passes, 5 days each adult. Point 8, our last point, family snowboarding on a budget. We purchased gear for me, which included a jacket and snow pants, as well as socks and bindings, board, and boots, snowboarding boots. And we purchased snowboarding boots, bindings, and board for my toddler. We purchased 5 days worth of lift tickets for 2 adults. Final thoughts. Snowboarding is expensive. It is definitely an expensive winter sport. But then again, I never really practiced any winter sport. You would not find me in the snow, on the ice, outside during winter times. I'm like a bear. I like to hibernate. But hey, for the sake of enjoying time with my kid outside, I'm gonna go out in the snow. Yes, so snowboarding is expensive. It is possible to keep the costs down. The key is to focus on essentials, prioritize comfort and safety, and not overinvest until you know your family will love it. I hope this helps anyone who is just looking to start out as a snowboarder without spending a fortune. Remember, whether you're hitting the slopes for a first time or returning to the slopes after a long sabbatical, the most important thing is having fun and enjoying yourself. So stay warm and safe and healthy out there, folks. And until next time, thank you for watching and happy shredding. Oh, hi, don't forget to like and subscribe, okay?